We begin with the last of the group stage action from the 2018 FIFA World Cup, where dark horses Belgium secured the top spot in Group G with a narrow 1-0 victory over England. Having already qualified with 2 wins, both teams featured a largely second-string side. Adnan Januzaj scored the only goal of the match as the Red Devils progressed into the round of 16 with a 100% record. In the other Group G clash, Panama's bid to claim their first points at a World Cup were foiled after Tunisia snatched a come from behind win. Yassine Meria's first half own goal gave Panama the lead, but goals from Fakiri Din Ben Yusuf and Wahabi Khadri turned things around and secured all 3 points from Tunisia. In the early from Thursday, already eliminated Poland secured a 1-0 win over Japan in Group H. Bednarek scored the only goal of the match as Poland signed off with a victory. Japan finished level with Senegal on all parameters but would progress into the knockouts ahead of the Africans due to superior disciplinary record. And Colombia too qualified for the knockout stages after beating Senegal 1-0. The South Americans faced a must-win scenario irrespective of what happens in the other Group G match. Yerry Mina scored for the second game, running to give Los Cafeteros the vital 3 points. The result, though, would eventually eliminate Senegal, who were pipped by Japan on a disciplinary record. A gunman has killed at least 5 people and injured several others at a newspaper office in the Maryland capital of Annapolis in the United States. The suspect has been apprehended and no motive is yet established for the attack at the Capital Gazette newspaper. A reporter for the newspaper described the scene in the newsroom as being like a war zone, with reporters hiding under their desks for safety. The UN has urged Russia, the United States and Jordan to use their influence to subdue violence in southwest Syria. According to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, airstrikes killed at least 46 people in the last 2 days in rebel-held parts of Deraa province, while a total of 93 people have died since the assault began last week. 70,000 people have been displaced by the fighting. Syria's chief opposition negotiator has condemned U.S. silence over a Syrian government offensive in southwest Syria, where Washington agreed a de-escalation zone last year with Jordan and Russia. Nasr al-Hariri said that only a malicious deal could explain the lack of a U.S. response over the government's Russia-backed campaign in the southwest. Several hundred refugees had returned to Syria from Lebanon, while hundreds more waited to hear whether their applications to go home would be approved by the Syrian authorities. The returnees represent a fraction of the 1 million refugees in Lebanon, about a quarter of its population, registered by the United Nations. The Lebanese authorities hope that more such returns will reduce the number of refugees in Lebanon. The British Army continued to battle a moorland blaze following the spreading of a fire for days in hot weather near Manchester in northern England. The fire has been declared a major incident. Like most of Britain, the area has experienced hot weather in the recent days, and forecasters expect temperatures to remain high for the rest of the week. Russian President Vladimir Putin and FIFA President Gianni Infantino opened an exhibition soccer match on a pitch in Red Square, with Putin taking the ceremonial first kick. Russian youth players were joined by former star footballers from Brazil, Germany and Spain. Infantino said the 2018 FIFA World Cup in Russia was thus far proving very popular. US President Donald Trump has reminded Harley-Davidson of his apparent help in lowering the export taxes for them in India. Trump said that despite him being very good with Harley-Davidson, the American motorcycle manufacturers were using tariffs as an excuse to move overseas. Trump had earlier threatened Harley-Davidson with higher taxes if it went ahead with the plan to move production from European customers overseas. A startup on the top of a former Navy yard building in New York bills itself as the first commercially viable rooftop vineyard system in the world. Rooftop Red's founder Devin Shoemaker thought about the urban vineyard concept when he was studying viticulture in 2012. He started working on the project in Brooklyn in 2014 and opened the winery's doors to the public in spring 2016. 16 of the European Union's 28 nations are at loggerheads over hosting asylum seekers. Since refugee arrivals spiked in 2015, EU leaders have been at odds over how to handle them, the feud weakening their unity and undermining Europe's free travel area. The European Union states agreed they want to work more with other regions such as North Africa to prevent people from setting sail for Europe. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has told her country's parliament that Europe faces many challenges, but that of migration could become the make or break one for the European Union. In a passionate address to the Bundestag, Merkel tried to win over the critics from within her own ranks, defending her 2015 decision to open Germany's doors to a million migrants. US First Lady Melania Trump traveled to Arizona to get a first-hand look at conditions for children brought illegally to the country by their parents. It was the second trip in a week for the United President's wife to see children separated from their parents after US administration's crackdown on the migrants at the southern border. Melania Trump met with the Border Patrol agents before touring a border facility, thanking them for their work. US federal officers removed protesters from the entrance of an office used by immigration authorities in Portland, Oregon, breaking up a days-long demonstrations against the Trump administration's immigration policies. Agents from the Department of Homeland Security moved into the protest camp to reopen the US Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility that has been blocked by demonstrators since last week. China has described as fabricated an Australian media report that said China sent a spy ship to monitor Australian warships. The Chinese government said that the freedom of the press does not mean fabricating stories when commenting on the groundless report, or what they call a groundless report from the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. Former US Vice President Al Gore has said that Germany risks being left behind on climate change as other countries move more aggressively to cut their reliance on coal and phase out the internal combustion engine. Gore, who won an Oscar and shared a Nobel Peace Prize in 2007 for his climate change documentary, An Inconvenient Truth, noted that there had not been any meaningful reductions in German carbon dioxide emissions for 4 years. The Maltese police have questioned the captain of the German charity ship Lifeline, which docked in Malta carrying migrants to Malta. Both Italy and Malta have accused him of violating international law by picking up the migrants at sea. The ship has been impounded pending the completion of the investigation. Maltese Prime Minister Joseph Muscat has said that 8 European Union countries had offered to share the burden of the migrants with Malta. Member states of the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons have voted in Hague in favor of a controversial Britain-led proposal to expand the power of the global chemical watchdog to not only identify the use of chemical weapons but also assign blame. The special meeting was held on the demands of 11 member states. The member states adopted the UK drafted decision by a vote of 82 in favor and 24 against. Pope Francis has installed 14 Catholic churchmen's cardinals, putting another stamp on the group that will one day elect his successor. Pope Francis told the new cardinals that their mission was to serve the poor and the church and not seek any privileges. He urged the new cardinals to shun palace intrigues that he said take place sometimes in the Vatican and in church administrations around the world. Meanwhile, Pope Francis has accepted the resignation of 2 more Chilean bishops caught up in the country's sexual abuse scandal, bringing to 5 the number he has accepted so far. Francis accepted the resignations of 3 other bishops on the 11th of June. Last month, all of Chile's 34 bishops offered to resign en masse after a meeting with the Pope over allegations of a cover-up of sexual abuse. Employees of the French state-owned railway protested against government a day after President Emmanuel Macron signed into law railway reforms which have prompted months of strikes. The signing marked the end of a long legislative process and 3 months of protest, and is a significant win for Macron in his bid to outflank the unions and reform the economy. Cement maker Lafarge has said its French predecessor company has been put under formal investigation into allegations that it funded armed militant groups in Syria to keep a plant open. The confirmation comes after a judicial source said that the company, formed by a 2015 merger between France's Lafarge and Switzerland's Holcim, was being investigated in France for the payments and abetting crimes against humanity. Twelve-year-old French sailor Tom Goron has crossed the North Sea on a one-person boat in less than 15 hours and set record time. Followed and watched by his father from a bigger boat, Goron travelled 60 miles in 14 hours 20 minutes, averaging 4.19 nautical miles per hour. Goron began sailing at 8 years old and has placed in various competitions in France. Paris basked in the heat as temperatures went up to 29 degrees Celsius, luring people out in the sun. Parisians and tourists alike enjoying the weather at the foot of the Eiffel Tower. Some dipped their feet in fountains, while others stand and picnicked on the grass. Temperatures are expected to continue rising to 35 degrees Celsius during the weekend. The artwork depicting the king of pop, Michael Jackson, went on display in London in a new exhibition looking at the singer's influence on artists. Also on display is a jacket adorned with cutlery and equestrian portrait of Michael Jackson by New York artist Kehinde Willie, the last commissioned portrait of the influential singer before his death in 2009. International rescue teams joined the search for those missing in a cave in Thailand's northern province. U.S. military personnel from America's Pacific Command and British cave divers are helping locate 12 schoolboys and the soccer coach believed to be trapped by floodwaters in the cave as rescuers prepare to drill a shaft on the 5th day of the search. Authorities say they are optimistic that the boys and their coach are still alive. Ruling party candidate Jose Antonio closed out his presidential campaign in northern Mexico, urging voters to stay clear of frontrunner López Obrador. Trying to draw voters into his campaign in the final hours of the campaign, Miade said that López Obrador posed a danger to the country. Former finance minister was chosen by the ruling party as a clean face to head its re-election bid. European leaders have told British Prime Minister Theresa May to soften some of her red lines on Brexit, warning her that time was running out to prevent Britain crashing out of the European Union without a deal. At an EU summit focused more on a crisis over migration than on Brexit, the region's leaders expressed rising frustration over the lack of progress in the talks just 9 months before Britain is due to leave. The U.S. House of Representatives voted along party lines to demand the Department of Justice produce documents, including some related to the investigations of President Donald Trump and Russia, in an unusual rebuke to U.S. law enforcement. It comes on the same day when the number 2 Justice Department official and FBI Director Christopher Wray were called to testify at a hearing on the agency's conduct during the 2016 presidential election. A small airplane crashed in Mumbai on Thursday, killing all 4 people on board and another person on the ground. The King Air C-90 aircraft was on a test flight with 2 pilots and 2 engineers on board. Police said that the plane crashed as it was landing and burst into flames. A pedestrian on the ground was also killed. The cause of the crash was not immediately known. The U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, who is on a 3-day visit to India, has said that the United States and India military partnership was deepening as the Trump administration seeks to balance China's assertive posture across Asia and contain terrorism threats from Pakistan. Haley also said that the U.S. President shared the vision of a free and open Indo-Pacific region and encouraged sovereign countries to continue to pursue growth. Nikki Haley also said that neither India or the U.S. could turn a blind eye to those harboring terrorists, and the U.S. was communicating this message to Pakistan more strongly than ever. She also conveyed that U.S. supports India's membership in Nuclear Suppliers Group, considering it is a nuclear state which is widely respected. Haley spoke at length about global terrorism at an event held at an Indian think tank in New Delhi. India has hinted at cutting oil imports from Iran after U.S. sanctions on Tehran. According to reports, India's oil ministry has asked refiners to prepare for a drastic reduction or zero imports of Iranian oil from November. But the industry sources say that India, who is the biggest buyer of Iranian oil after China, will be forced to take action to protect its exposure to the U.S. financial system. Buddhist monks and nuns from Thailand concluded a peace walk, continuing for over a month in mountainous desert town of Leh in the northern Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir. The march was made to promote and spread the message of peace, love and communal harmony. Almost 185 participants completed the month-long march at the Shanti Stupa in Leh. Started in 2016, the yatra commences after offering prayers at the holy shrine of the sacred Bodh Gaya temple. Late King of Pop Michael Jackson's father, Joe Jackson, passed away at the age of 89. Jackson was said to be in the final stages of terminal cancer and was being treated at a hospital in Las Vegas. Joe Jackson shaped and promoted Jackson 5 band, comprising his 5 songs that included Michael Jackson. Now, 4 actresses have resigned from the Association of Malayalam Movie Artists after Malayalam superstar Dileep, who has been accused of abducting and raping an actress, was reinstated into the film body. One of the victims is of the incident in which Dileep is accused. Hollywood actor Leonardo DiCaprio took to social media to share his and Brad Pitt's looks from Quentin Tarantino's upcoming film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The film will also star actors like Margot Robbie and Al Pacino. Set in Los Angeles in the year 1969, the film is scheduled to release on the 9th of August next year. Indian actress Priyanka Chopra has been named the hottest woman in the world by men's magazine Maxim India. Priyanka, who also featured on the cover of the magazine's June-July edition, won the title for the fourth time by topping its Hot 100 list. She had previously won the title in 2011, 2013 and 2016. Oscar winners Robert De Niro and Anne Hathaway are some of the celebrities who will be honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The class of 2019, as announced by the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce this week, also includes Murphy Brown star Candice Bergen, TV chef Guy Fieri, and animated characters Alvin and the Chipmunks.